Samori Okwenyi. He's joining us this afternoon so that he can help us understand how this agency is helping Africa entrench governance as well as sustainable mechanisms. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Ari.
Thank you.
Very good. First of all, give us or paint to us a picture of how governance structures are spread out here in Africa.
Well, first and foremost, let me start by saying that the new Partnership for Africa Development, Africa Peer Review Mechanism, Kenya Secretariat, giving a background of where we are coming from, really is a semi-autonomous government agency, which is domiciled under the State Department for Economic Planning, of course at the National Treasury. Our mandate really is to domesticate, coordinate, monitor, evaluation and report implementation on key Africa Union programs and initiatives locally at the national level. We also do have a regional mandate. But most importantly is the fact that NEPAD APRM Kenya Secretariat was established in 2003. And its establishment in 2003 really follows the adoption of NEPAD by the Africa heads of states and government. And then subsequently, it was named NEPAD Kenya Secretariat. And then, of course, Kenya acceded to the Africa Peer Review Mechanism the same year, 2003, and hence NEPAD APRM Kenya Secretariat, because the Secretariat was now given an expanded mandate beyond NEPAD, which is sustainable development, and Africa Peer Review Mechanism, which really focuses on the promotion of good governance. And so we are actually handling two continental mandates, one on sustainable development and one on the promotion of good governance. The Africa Peer Review Mechanism is a homegrown self-assessment, voluntary self-assessment mechanism that allows heads of states to peer review each other on issues that touch on governance and service provision. We as a country have been fortunate enough to, first and foremost, having been one of the first countries to have acceded to the mechanism, and also one of the first countries to have undergone two peer reviews, mainly in 2006 and 2017. And so the Africa Peer Review Mechanism being an opportunity for heads of states to look at their governance structures and try and come up with a coherent situation where we can be able to address governance and provide better services for our citizens has actually had a very great impact across the continent. Right now we have 44 states that have actually acceded to the mechanism, which is quite impressive.
Out of the 55.
Out of 55, yes, which was not the same when it was established in 2003. And so there's a lot of engagement towards enhancing governance in related initiatives, really to promote key issues. Mainly, I will talk about the thematic areas that touch on governance, socio-economic management, development, political and democratic governance, corporate governance, and of course, economic governance and management. Those four thematic areas are really actually driving the agenda of the APRM at the continental level. At the national level, we have made very good progress, and I think we will be talking about that as we go along.
And how is NEPAD APRM important for the ordinary man, for the ordinary woman in the streets here in Kenya?
Thank you, Brian. I think that's a very pertinent and very important question. I mentioned that NEPAD touches on sustainable development, and of course APRM touches on governance. We normally say this every time we meet the citizens because we do a lot of public participation on focus group discussions. You can't achieve sustainable development without good governance. And so the evidenced policy decisions and directions that we normally undertake are able to influence policies and decisions that touch on the Mwananchi. We may not be directly implementing some of these agendas to the Mwananchi or to Wanjiku, but that effort of being able to come up with data and report that can be able to advise correctly on how the Mwananchi or Wanjiku can benefit normally arise from the engagements we have. You can't have better infrastructure. you can't have better food systems, you can't have better technological innovation, you can't have better skills in the society amongst the population without proper governance. Governance will definitely be a driving force in being the key component of executing and actualizing sustainable development.
Let's focus on NEPAD. And of course, in 2018, it was transformed into African Union Development Agency. What would you say you have achieved as a secretariat in driving sustainable agenda here in Kenya?
Thank you for that question. As a secretariat, first of all, you're right to have said NEPAD metamorphosized to what is now called AUDA-NEPAD, the African Union Development Agency, which again is the technical arm and the development arm of the African Union. Like I mentioned at the beginning, we domesticate agendas, initiatives that actually passed on by the heads of states at the continental level to the national and the regional level. But now we have gone further to even cascade some of the engagements to the subnational level, which is the county level. The emergence of AUDA-NEPAD, AUDA to now becoming AUDA-NEPAD, as a secretariat we have been able to achieve a lot. Expanded mandates have allowed us, especially on issues around the AU Agenda 2063, which is Africa's blueprint for the next many years until we get to 2063, have given us an opportunity to touch on areas that have remained not explored that much in terms of sustainable development. If you look at the thematic areas that come with AUDA-NEPAD, which of course we implement at the Secretariat and of course at the national level, we look at issues on human capital and institutional development, which help the youth acquire skills that can give them an opportunity to become a workforce, effective workforce in the society. If you look at agriculture and food systems that actually help us have more food and not have problems around food shortage. If you look at science, innovation and technology, look at what we have done so far. If you look at issues around infrastructure and integration, how best do you promote trade? How best do you promote enterprises? How do you best promote open market without having proper infrastructure? So NEPAD APRMK Secretariat has undertaken initiatives that have actually helped some of these thematic areas come to life. For example, the LAPSET corridor. In 2015, Kenya had an opportunity to have the LAPSET being a footprint, one of the footprint of the three footprint countries under the LAPSET corridor. LAPSET was elevated to the Presidential Infrastructure Championship Initiative, which is under the Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa. That gave a lot of prominence and visibility to the corridor. This corridor opens up to the hinterland and allows access to markets that may have not been accessed before. We have had an opportunity to bring in a specific support, and I'll give an example. GIZ is supporting Kisumu and Kisii Polytechnic in what we call the Skills Initiative for Africa. And this touches on issues around human capital and institutional development, and it really, really adds value to the skills that the young people are getting to be able to become effective in the workforce. And of course, we have had an opportunity to host a PIDA week, which brought all partners across the continent. PIDA stands for Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa, and it focuses on infrastructure development, issues that really speak to trade enhancement, trade facilitation, and so forth. So we have had so many opportunities around that. Besides NEPAD, when you look at on the APRM front, because now that we handle 2 continental mandates, on the APRM front, we have had an opportunity to cascade the continental mechanism to the subnational level, which is the county level. This has had massive impacts in terms of really giving the governors an opportunity to see how they can peer review amongst themselves and be able to learn best practices and be able to exchange and become more effective in governance and service provision. So these achievements are real key milestones for us. And very recently, O'Brien, I need to mention, just 2 days ago, we just launched the AIDA, Accelerated Industrial Development of Africa and Africa Continental Free Trade Area Impact Assessment Report, which really is going to help, especially in the trading front, Kenya to become a little bit more impactful and have more access to the continental market on issues around AfCFTA. This is an opportunity that we have been very fortunate that we are one of the first 5 countries who have been given the opportunity to pilot this process. And this gives us a visibility and also expresses and shows the confidence that the continent and the leadership of the continent have in Kenya, and of course, with regards to what the Secretariat has undertaken.
Yeah, and you're talking about Agenda 2063, and one of your core mandate is to ensure that programs and projects under Africa Agenda 2063 are implemented. You know, we are talking about a document that was launched back in the year 2013. Now, how many years? 14 years later. When you look at that socio-economic development blueprint for Africa and the project that Kenya is implementing today, are they aligned? When you talk about, you know, the expansion of the port of Mombasa, the expansion of our railway network, the expansion of Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, the roads that we are seeing, do you see any alignment with that blueprint? Absolutely.
We are very, very aligned. And I can say that with a lot of confidence, because if you look at the aspirations of the Agenda 2063, which are 7, they touch on prosperity, integration, governance, all the issues you've mentioned. And I want to mention this, that the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which really is a roadmap for inclusive growth, economic growth for Kenya, is very, very much aligned. They align very well, because if you look at the aspirations of the Africa Union Agenda 2063, and you look at the key pillars that are projected by the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, they speak to each other. So yes, we are on this. We are very much aligned, and as a Secretariat, we have that mandate to really make sure that our national development agenda aligns very well with the continental frameworks. And in this case, of course, both align very well, and which makes it very easy for us to, as a Secretariat, to be able to push forward on the implementation of these initiatives.
And we're talking about an agency that was launched back in the year 2001.
2003.
Sorry?
2003.
No, I'm talking about NEPAD.
Okay.
Yeah, NEPAD. And the idea behind it is development.
Yes.
You know, Africa's development. When you look at the continental developmental trajectory, are we on the right track? Are we achieving the aspirations of the original architect of the NEPAD framework?
Yes, absolutely. We may have begun very slowly, but we have made very good progress. If you look at what is happening right now across the continent, you can see a lot of progress in terms of infrastructure, in terms of food security, in terms of human capital, in terms of innovation. And I can tell you, I have been to quite a number of countries across the continent, and I have seen that desire to really be able to progress forward and be able to make this the dream that the founding fathers of NEPAD had come into a reality. And I must say that most of this can only be achieved through political will. Do we have political will? Yes, we have political will, because the political will that we have really speaks towards development, and that's exactly what we need. And so as a Secretariat, it's very easy for us to be able to move on, because when you have political will, you actually are going to be able to achieve those aspirations. And yes, the aspirations actually have made very good progress when it comes to issues around actualization.
And of course, circling back to the Africa Agenda 23, and when you look at that document, when it's talking about political governance and corruption is highlighted as a key challenge facing Africa back then in 2013 and even today. As a continent, are we making the right strides in addressing issues around corruption and proper governance?
Absolutely. I will speak for our scenario, and maybe try and avoid speaking for other scenarios, because every member state has to enjoy territorial integrity and sovereignty. And so if you look at APRM, the answer is in APRM, the Africa Peer Review Mechanism. The fact that now we have 44 member states who have acceded to the mechanism tells you something. It tells you that we are actually out to tackle issues that touch on governance, corruption being one of them, and the rule of law, human rights, and justice. Those are key tenets under APRM. And APRM is actually turning around that problem that we've had around unconstitutional changes of government, issues of civil strife. It is turning around. And if you have 44 out of 52 members who have acceded voluntarily to the mechanism, that tells you that we are making very good progress. And yes, these issues, of course, are going to be tackled with time, because structures have to be put in place so that we can eventually be able to eradicate issues, especially around corruption. But yes, we are actually making progress.
And of course, I mean, some of the projects that are undertaken here in Kenya in programs, majority of Kenyans do not realize that it's part of Africa's development agenda as agreed upon by heads of states, in various forums. And so I want you to help people understand, when we talk about the Vision 2030, our economic blueprint, the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. And I know we're also in the process of now developing a post-Vision 2030 economic blueprint. How are they tied up to Africa's Agenda 2063?
Like I mentioned earlier on, O'Brien, our development agenda, and I know I only touched on better, but of course our Vision 2030, which of course is 2 years away from undergoing another transition, is definitely aligned. If you also look at the pillars, the key pillars of Vision 2030 are aligned. And I have absolutely so much confidence in the fact that the progress we have made, and a report, of course, is going to be produced on where we have gotten to. We are now operating on the 4th medium-term plan of the Vision 2030. And after this, we'll be able to see how much progress we have made. One thing we have to realize is some of these long-term strategic development plans normally are implemented over a period of time. Implementation proceeds, implementation continues. It doesn't stop because the vision has ended. And so the alignment with the continental frameworks and development agendas, yes, they are very much aligned.
When you meet Kenyans in the streets or anywhere you go, and when you hear them lamenting and complaining about, the cost of living, corruption, bad roads, and all these things, and having the advantage of working with many other African agencies, what do you tell them?
That's a good question. We can only instill optimism and hope to Kenyans with the fact that we are making the environment better for better engagement, so that they can be able to get better services, because I think the key issue for them is services. And what we do as a secretariat, and we, like I mentioned earlier on, we normally do a lot of focus group discussions, engagements around governance, mainly around governance. But around NEPAD, we've also been able to sensitize. We have been to all the 47 counties. Actually, last year, 2025, we went to all the 47 counties and sensitized all the Kenyans at the county level on Agenda 2063 and how impactful it is. And the President, His Excellency the President, has repeatedly in the past said this, that counties are the frontline implementers of Agenda 2063. And so this now goes back all the way to the county level, to the citizens level, to the ground level, where implementation of Agenda 2063 should begin and definitely progress upwards. And so Kenyans now, as I speak, have had an opportunity to understand what Agenda 2063 is all about, and now know how much the government of Kenya is very much committed in the implementation of Agenda 2063, and of course in line with its national development agenda around better, and of course Vision 2030.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the issues of poverty, are close to the hearts of every African, because we live in a continent which is the poorest in the world, and when you look at the list of developed countries in the world, majority of them are here in Africa. And so we cannot claim progress when we are still very poor. When you see the strategies and the mechanisms being employed on the African continent, are you hopeful that they are going to produce the desired results when it comes to dealing with issues of hunger, issues of poverty?
I'm very hopeful, O'Brien. I'm very hopeful because we have a program, CADAP, under Agriculture and Food Systems in NEPAD, that really focuses on smart agriculture. I think because of the way the world is evolving and things are changing, and as a country, again, I will speak for us, we are embracing smart agriculture. Smart agriculture to the point whereby hopefully we can be able to say bye-bye to poverty, food security, food shortages and so forth. But of course, that is with regards to production of food, because again, production of food, it also leads to better living, better lives or livelihoods. But when we talk about poverty is not necessarily only food. It's also being able to meet your basic needs. Are we meeting our basic needs? Yes, we are. Maybe we are not. But the engagements, the opportunities, the efforts that have been put in place through these agreements and these programs around AU Agenda 2063, Vision 2030, and better, really the intentions were really to alleviate poverty and make living better for the citizens. And so those efforts will continue. Whether we have gotten there or not, they will continue. And yes, I am very hopeful they will, because it's all about changing the mindset and getting into that mode of being able to accelerate implementation of these agendas and these key issues that have been brought forward.
And I'm glad that you're bringing in the issue of CADEP. And when you look at the Malabo Declaration, I mean, it talks about African countries investing about 10% of their GDP towards agriculture in terms of mechanization, smart agriculture, and of course upskilling our farmers. But when you look at how much is being inputted in this sector, it's barely less than 5%. And so when you sit down with the policy makers, what do you tell them?
Well, we give them statistics. You know, statistics are the ones that will give you the true evidence of the reality on the ground. And what we do as a secretariat, like I mentioned, we are not an implementing agency. We purely domesticate, coordinate, monitor, evaluate, and then report. That report is very important. And when you report, and then that report is now translated into decisions and policies that now can be able to alter that 5%, or look at that 5% and think whether is it 10% that is going to be enough, or do you need more than that? So we talk about that. We talk about that from an expert point of view in terms of the data that we've been able to achieve, what we've been able to collect, because that really speaks the reality. Different regions are very different. because they have different dynamic situations. And so where you will need 5%, one place you will need 5%, another place you'll need 10%, and somewhere else you'll need maybe 15%. So they are it's a very, very dicey issue, but also it's an issue that we have to talk about so that we can be able to come up with good policies and guiding principles that can be able to speak to the issue of agriculture being given prominence. But I think as a country, we have done very well because, as you have seen, we have made very good effort in trying to really speak on the issue of agriculture with all the efforts that have been made around that. And that, of course, touches on the Malabo Declaration and, of course, even the other declarations that came after that, like the Uganda Kampala Declaration.
Mm-hmm. And now focusing on the APR mechanisms, and, you are talking about 44 countries who have onboarded themselves, voluntarily onto that mechanism. Why are the other 11 not on board?
Brian, I think I told you at the beginning it's voluntary.
Yeah.
Of course, the other 11 countries, without going too much into the details of why they have not gone into them, is because some of those countries may be experiencing change of transition in government, challenges around issues around political processes. And I wouldn't be really competent enough to say why they would not. But again, I think that process has been left to be purely voluntary. And heads of states and government from those countries would probably make a decision to accede to the mechanism. What I can tell you for sure is that the Africa Peer Review Mechanism is making concerted efforts to really encourage all the 52 member states to accede to the mechanism. And even the 44 members who are already going through the process had to be given the opportunity. It's all about sensitization. So a lot of sensitization efforts are going on. As you know, some governments have 5-year election cycle, 7-year election cycle, 10-year election cycle if the head of state has been re-elected. And so when you have change of government, it takes some time because you have to give the new administration time to come in and give them the sensitization and allow them to accede to the mechanism. So I am very, very positive and optimistic that we are going to have a universal accession at some point, and we will have all the 52 members acceding to the mechanism. Yeah,
and when you hear of political instability in a number of countries, from Burkina Faso to South Sudan, to Sudan, Mali. And when you look at Africa's aspiration of becoming a prosperous, well-governed continent, are you convinced that we're making the right steps in the right direction?
Of course. The AU Agenda 2063 Aspiration 1 touches on prosperity, which really is the ultimate agenda that we want to achieve as a continent. The succeeded aspirations touch on, of course, cultural heritage, and then, of course, there's one that touches on peace and security. So peace and security is one of the aspirations of the AU Agenda 2063. Very critical in addressing issues that you have raised concern. And so I think there is a lot of effort towards that. And we definitely, if the continent is going to continue addressing the AU Agenda 2063 as it has been presented to us and implementing it, yes, we will achieve that, peace and security. That is a very, very critical thing, because without peace and security, then all the other issues, all the other pillars and aspirations cannot be achieved. And so all these aspirations, if you look at all the 7 aspirations, right from prosperity all the way to development of our infrastructure and issues around being global leaders, leadership and partnership across the globe, all of them are very interrelated, and they're all speaking into each other. And if you look at the 10-year implementation plans, the first 10-year implementation plan that we finished a couple of years ago, and now we're in the second 10-year implementation plan of the AU Agenda 2063, they are actually tackling these issues and aspirations bit by bit, with an effort to be able to eventually actualize that. So there is hope for that.
Very well. And before I let you go, Balozi, I want you to speak to us on what do we need to do as a country to strengthen the role and the responsibilities of NEPAD APRM Secretariat Kenya Secretariat.
Thank you. The responsibility that, and I will say this to our citizens, I think it is important that we all participate in nation building. This is a shared responsibility. Mm-hmm. It is not an individual responsibility. We should all share we should all have a shared responsibility in national development and be patriotic. I am very optimistic about the future of our country with the pillars that have been put in place in terms of governance and service provision in an effort to achieve sustainable development. And so we need to stand together. But most importantly, we need you to support the initiatives that the Secretariat undertake so that we can be able to have very, very good output that will translate into impact.
Very good. Dr. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.
And of course, we've been talking to Ambassador Dr. Samori Okwia. He's the CEO of NEPAD APRM Kenya Secretariat, helping us understand the role of the agency in driving Africa's Agenda 2063, as well as domesticating the project of African Union here in Kenya. And of course, you have heard it from him. My name is O'Brien Keman. You have been watching Inside Government. Thank you for your time. Bye for now.